So I'm excited to dive into building a shared vision with all of you and talking about how you can really focus on building these wonderful relationships between your internal stakeholders and your community ambassadors. As community professionals, we know that can be pretty tough trying to get both of these groups into the same room so that way we can achieve this mutual understanding, which I like to call our North Star. But chances are you already have the tools that you need to make this a success. Likely, if you have a foundation or an event that already works for you, you're going to be just fine. With me, I have found so many wonderful partners at Fandom, and I have such a brilliant community called Fandom Stars that have made this such a seamless transition for me. And I've learned so much from both sides. So I'm really excited to share this, collaborative system where you can achieve this win-win scenario. Um, and it's really about internal goals, community aspirations, and how you're meeting the two. And really, it's ultimately delivering that exceptional product experience for your community. So, to dive into it, I want to tell you a little bit more about myself. My name is Jennifer Pearson, as you all know, but feel free to call me JP. My friends call me JP. Fandom, they call me JP. I'm a part of our product support team within our community department. So my job is overseeing our select, top 1% of editors on the fandom platform that really love to give feedback, that are really focused on making edits on the platform and really sharing their ideas with the community as well as our internal stakeholders. So, with this creator recognition platform or program called Fandom Stars, we are able to do quite a bit of things. Uh, the creator recognition program started out as something where we wanted to provide our stars with opportunities to, meet their favorite actors, their favorite producers, go to Comic Con, do all of these favorite in person things. But then we took a step back and we thought, well, how can we provide more opportunities on the platform? And this is the year where we really locked in and we decided, let's see what we can do together. And between our internal stakeholders and our community partners, we found something through these virtual events where we were able to come together and unify the voices of our fandom stars. And we found something really, really special. So, to share, my top fandoms include Veep, Law and Order, Insecure. You'll see Issa Rae down there, as well as Demon Slayer. Any anime recommendations you may have, share them in the chat. Webtoon recommendations, share them in the chat, and feel free to share your fandoms with me. I would love to know. And my username on there is J Pearson. So if you're on the platform, let us know. So, like she says, you got this. I believe it. You got this. So, what is fandom? If you're familiar with a wiki, or if you've ever, looked up to see who your favorite character is, or the stats on your favorite game, or anything that you can think of in the world of entertainment and gaming, Fandom is your go to source. It's the world's largest fan platform. We have over 350 million unique visitors each month, more than 250,000 fan powered communities, which means, 250,000 mini communities that we're overseeing each day. Over 45 million pages of content that get a combined 30 billion page views each year. Yes, that is a lot of page views each year. But this UGC platform, it is incredible because it is powered by fans, it's for fans, and it's for the love of fans. And it's really, really exciting to see because we have so many people who are passionate about their fandoms. And my job essentially is to facilitate these conversations to make sure that people feel heard, they're inspired, and we're coming up with bright, new, fun ideas to continue sharing what we love the most, our fandoms, and sharing it with the world. So, Fandom Stars, like I said before, With this program, the aim is to foster that strong connection between our most active and influential community members. And I wanted to connect them with our internal team members. And, we wanted to focus on building our user experience because that is what the platform is all about. When fans come to the site, it's important that they understand that all of the content that they're seeing before them is made by fans. It's a UGC platform. So these are the arbiters of truth. That's what our fans are known as. That's what our community members are known as. They're the arbiters of truth. That's what they believe in. So we want to make sure that we are doing everything in our power to create an environment for them where they are able to share their experience and we're providing an experience that is suitable for them. So, when you were thinking about that business value, I want you to think about the spaces model for CMX, right? Um, for the business value, we're talking product ideation, innovation, and feedback. So, the metrics behind that, because feedback is a major, major piece, is feature adoption, new user generated content, and product ideas. Product ideas, that's a major thing for us. We want to make sure that we're having these valuable conversations with our community members to hear their voices and figure out new things that we can do to make their experiences better. They are continuously building on that site. They are sharing their content, they're sharing their insights. So we want to learn more from them. And we want to make sure that whatever it is that we're creating, the features that we are creating, they have a hand in it. So, really excited to dive even deeper into the importance of a shared vision with you so you can understand what that looks like. And I'm excited to, kind of dive into the how because I can tell you what the what is all day, but I want to tell you how I did it so that way you can apply what you have and see if it could possibly work for you. The importance of a shared vision. At top level, it's really about alignment, motivation, and collaboration. So, when you're thinking about that North Star, you want to think about alignment. You want to think about your internal stakeholders. You want to think about your community members. And you want to focus on the community's overall goals and objectives, especially for the product and service that you're supporting. And with this shared vision, you want to ensure that everyone is working towards the same outcome. For example, if you have your community that is focused on, just providing new ideas, but you have your product teams and your community teams that are focused on getting feedback, especially about the newest feature that they just put out, well, you're not locked into the same vision. You're not necessarily aligned. You both want wonderful things, you both have great intent, but the impact's not going to be as strong. So you have to make sure that you're both equally aligned. And that's going to make for stronger motivation between the two. You want to make sure that you have a clear vision that's set in place so you can motivate both sides. So that way you can provide that sense of purpose. When people understand what they're doing, when people understand what their purpose and the direction is, um, they're going to be okay. Like they're going to feel a lot more comfortable sharing with you and they're going to work with you instead of against you. And then when it comes to that collaboration, again, you want to make sure that the shared vision is fostering that collaboration and that teamwork between the two. And the goal for fandom is breaking down silos. We want to break down silos between the gaming community. We want to break down the silos that's happening between entertainment. We want to break down silos happening in music. We want to break down silos that's happening between the community and our internal stakeholders. Because with community, we don't want them to think, well, we're on this platform, but we don't understand what you do as a business. We don't understand how the teams are working. So we wanted to be very, very transparent about how these different teams are working, especially these cross functional teams that are creating these experiences for our power users and for our community in general. For the decision makers on the internal teams who are, creating all of these different features, who are building these product roadmaps, we want you to understand how we keep the community in mind. So it's important that we have these transparent conversations and we are encouraging like cross functional cooperation. So that leads me to understanding each other's needs. We have to understand each other, we have to understand what's going on, and we have to communicate. Because if we're not understanding what's going on, like I said before, we'll definitely, have strong intent. We want to make sure that we're creating the best experiences for people, but we might miss the mark. So, you want to be empathetic. You want to develop empathy for both those internal stakeholders and community ambassadors. And you want to understand perspective, motivation, and the challenges that, both sides are feeling. So, an example of this that I approach it as is when I am creating an event, especially with, internal stakeholders and fandom stars. I reach out to my internal stakeholders and I try to understand that the challenges they may face, you know, what type of information are you trying to get from the community? What didn't you get before? And, do you have any apprehension? Do you have any challenges or concerns that you may have um, going into a room with all of these different, you know, community members who may want to learn from you? Because think about it, like a one to many conversation, it can be daunting. It can be a lot. You can feel a lot of stress. So my job is to make sure that I'm facilitating this conversation. I want to make sure I'm taking the stress and taking the intimidation out of all of that for everybody on both sides. And I want to understand what challenges they're facing. So I take note on all of that. And how can I answer those questions beforehand? So I want to be empathetic to them. So that way I can make sure I'm answering the questions on both sides and people will feel like, wow, she already thought of that beforehand. Yes, this is going to be a direct conversation. We're going to get to business. We already know what to think, we already know what to do. And then on the community side, I don't want the community to come in and think, oh, we're going to have another conversation about, some type of navigation and we've already given our feedback and they're not necessarily listening to it. No, we want to understand specifically what it is that's not working out for you. So I like to have guided conversations. I like to ask specific questions instead of having those open-ended questions, especially to fandom stars. So that way we can point them in a specific direction. So that way they can really think about the answers that they're going to provide for us and create a lot of space and opportunity for them to provide feedback to us, just so that they know that their voices are going to be heard. I don't ever want to limit them in any way. So that communication piece is extremely important to me because I want to be empathetic to both sides and their needs. And I want to, stress the importance of that open and transparent communication between both groups. So it's important to check in on both sides. Like, how were you feeling? How did you feel the event went? How did you feel, that the feedback that you received was it enough? Do we need to have a follow-up conversation? What does that look like for you? Honestly, if both sides didn't get anything out of it, then I probably missed the mark there somewhere. So I like to make sure that I'm anticipating the needs for my community as well as my internal stakeholders. And as community, professionals, we all understand like that's what we do. We anticipate the needs of others just to make sure that we're creating the environment where people feel safe, they feel heard, they feel respected, they feel valued. And that leads me to mutual respect, creating, that culture of mutual respect where both groups they value each other's contributions and expertise. And speaking of expertise, our stars, our community members on that platform, they're the experts, and I respect that. So that's why I open myself up to that feedback from them. How can I make the events that I am building for you better? How can I provide better feedback loops for you? Tell me, share with me. Typically, what we do is focus on gathering feedback through Discord. We like a lot of text based conversations. It just works well for our community. And it might be different for others, but figure out what works well for you, text based. Because our users like long form content and because I love long form content, we are locked in. And it's really, really exciting because I can share as much or as little as I need. And we already have a solid cadence in place. So it's really, really nice to know that I can work with the community and we can always find ways to pivot. We can always find ways to develop. And that's how we're ultimately understanding each other and developing and finding a way that better suits our needs so that way we can build our community. So, the strategies for building this shared vision, because I really, really want to dive into the how here. So, co creation, obviously. If you're having two groups, you want to make sure that you're creating together. You want to involve them both in the process. The internal stakeholders, your community ambassadors, how are they building the vision together? You want to encourage them to share ideas, concerns, and their aspirations. What's the moonshot? Like, what is the moonshot idea for both sides? If you had no limits, what could this look like for you? Ask them to share because you never know. You might be able to achieve it. Um, I think it's important to think big. I think it's important to strive for it and build those plans together. And I think it'll lead back to that motivation that I spoke about earlier because you want your community to remain motivated and you also want your stakeholders to see that, well, your community is still locked in, they're still extremely motivated, and they're still extremely excited about the partnership that you're developing. And how we're doing this specifically is through discussion. And we are making sure that we're having consistent discussions throughout our community. And that includes roundtable discussions on Discord, AMAs, and events that are connecting our power users with our teams. We want to make sure that we are building that bridge of communication because that's exactly what our community asks for. We want to make sure that we are following up and delivering on the promises that we've made to our community at every step, not only through our product journey, but through our community journey as well. So when we present our product roadmap at the beginning of the year, we want to make sure that we're continuing to check in with our Fandom Stars, but as well our entire community. We have these checkpoints with our community, and recently we did that through a series of blog posts. For one, I absolutely love a series. I love blog posts. I love an event series. I love a discussion series because you can break things up and it's easier for people to digest. And that way you can bring more people into the fold internally so that way they can share more about themselves. So that way you can tell people a little bit more about what your company does, who you are, and how you work together. So there is that co creation piece there. And then you're providing that clear communication where you're able to continue to articulate the vision in that clear and concise manner. So you can really talk about the role and how everybody contributes to the North Star. So, how do you want to do that? You want to make sure that the audience understands the takeaway from the conversation. So, a tip that I have is to gather questions from your audience to share with your guests before before the event. It allows the event to flow naturally, and then your community, for example, our Fandom Stars, they already know what to expect because they are generating questions that they have top of mind about the platform that they've always wanted to know. And we can just really focus on the concerns. We can focus on, the future of the experiments that we may have. We may focus on who is it going to impact. Will it focus on logged in users? Will it focus on logged out users? How can we change this? Is there an alternative? There are a lot of questions that your community may have, but they might not be sure who to reach out to. So that's an opportunity for you to gather questions and share that with your guests beforehand so that way they can know what to expect. And then it also takes the intimidation out, um, because again, that one to many, it can be intimidating, it can be a lot to deal with. So it's a great tip. That's something that we've done. Usually I just use a Google form. I post an announcement of what the event is going to be, and I tell people submit your, questions. And if you can't attend the event, still submit your questions that you may have, because I want you to have the information and I want to make sure that you are informed of what's, coming down the pipeline and how you can get involved. So it's a great opportunity to gather more content. It's a great opportunity to also gather feedback as well. And then, you definitely want to have regular reinforcement. Continue to reinforce the vision. You want to make sure that people understand what the vision is. You want to communicate that through regular announcements. You want to make sure you're doing that through a breakdown of events, and even through recognizing your community through your program. So, I like to recognize a lot of our fandom stars through a highlight that we have weekly. And it's an opportunity for them to really talk about their experience on the platform and their journey to how they found fandom and what they think about fandoms in general. But not only that, they share advice for new users on the platform who are interested in Fandom Stars, or even if they aren't sure about Fandom Stars yet and just want to navigate the community. Here's advice for you to really understand the platform, really learn more about the tools, really learn more about how to focus on the value of being a creator. So that's a great way for you to focus on celebrating the success and acknowledging, the contribution of both groups on both sides there, because you will get a lot of feedback through those recognition pieces as well. So the idea is to develop that healthy cadence to find your structure. The idea of this is finding your structure and then building that out so that can be your blueprint. And again, anticipating the needs of your partners and your community members. And then finally, flexibility. Be prepared to adapt to the vision as needed and based on that feedback and changing circumstances. Things change all the time, and that's fine. That is fine. Be cool with it and just flow like water. Just make sure you're checking in, asking questions, especially immediately after the event. When people are, really excited about what they've heard, or they are still really close with the guests who are just so happy because they've just gathered all of this feedback, they don't even want to leave the stage. That is the best time to get a lot of feedback. So likely drop the link in, the chat and say, hey, while you're here, give us some feedback. And sometimes we just start asking even more questions in the chat. You know, if you like this, or if you like this event format, tell us more. I think the three words that can really change the game in your community is tell me more. Um, it will honestly give you all of the information that you could possibly need, and it could really help you drive progress. So let's focus on measuring success, because all of this is wonderful, but if you're not measuring your success, then you just have a very healthy and happy community. But which is wonderful, but you want to make sure that you're measuring the success. You want to make sure you're establishing your KPIs. You want to make sure that you're reviewing these things to make sure that to have a benchmark and see if these things are working for you. Because if it's working for you and you see that you're going in the right direction, you have the opportunity to experiment even more. You have the opportunity to pivot. You have the opportunity to partner with even more of your internal partners, and you can show them that, hey, this works. And this is the blueprint that I have. Take a look, read it, and just open up your calendar. Let me know when I can jump in. And that's usually how I approach things. So you want to establish those KPIs, right? Those key performance indicators. You want to align that shared vision. I'm going to keep drilling this in here. Who knows? This might be a part of the drinking game that I've talked about. These KPIs should be measurable and trackable. You want to assess the progress and make adjustments as needed. It is okay to adjust, right? You're not necessarily changing your what, but it's okay to change the how. If if the event is not working for you, let's say the roundtable or the AMA isn't working for you. For me, I found that the AMAs that we were having in Fandom Stars, they were great. People were turning up, they were showing up, they were having fun, but we weren't necessarily getting the feedback. For example, we were just finding out that people, they didn't like pineapple on their pizza. They were just, having fun conversations with each other, but it wasn't focused on product. It was only focused on genuine connection and fun. It was perfect. Great. I have this event in front of me where I see that the community responds well to it, they're receptive to it. How can I take this and build something, especially with the product partners that I have, and, provide some type of value for my internal partners? So I found that gap and I needed to figure out a way to fill that. So I decided to take that same framework with the AMA, and I tried something, along the lines of an online fireside chat, if you will. And with this AMA, I would take the first half of the AMA to allow our community members to ask questions specifically to our guests, so they can learn more about their day to day in the business, in fandom, what they do, what their fandoms are, all of the fun things. But in the second half of the event, that's when we decided to flip it. And that's where we wanted to fill that gap and make the change. So, for this hour-long conversation, in the final 30 minutes of the event, that's when we had our guests prepare questions beforehand, and they would ask our stars, our power users, questions about their experience on the platform that they really needed to know. And like I said, our power users, our stars, they love to give feedback. They love to share about their experiences. And that's how we wanted to kind of really focus on getting that product feedback, what challenges they were having, what's working well for them, what were they excited to see. Um, what were you focused on during the product roadmap? Initially, how did you feel about it? What feedback did you want to give? Um, what teams do you want to speak with the most? Could this be user experience? Could this be our news and ratings brands from the recent acquisition that we just had? Could this potentially be through our engagement teams? So it was important that we were having more, productive and concise feedback loops, so that way we could really get the ball rolling here. So you definitely want to fill those gaps. If you see any gaps, fill them immediately and find fun and new ways to do that. If you see that things are working for you, you don't necessarily have to change it, but see if you can remix it a little bit. See if you can make them work for you. And then regularly review and adjust these things. Like I said, you don't have to change, you don't have to take them off the table, but see if you can remix it. Change up your strategy a bit. Sweet, sweet, successful collaboration. I want to share an example with you from a collaboration that I had with our news and ratings brand. This is, a note that one of my colleagues left, because we have a kudos channel in our Slack, and really the meeting that we had, we first met. I asked Anna to, have her team meet with Fandom Stars, because the news and ratings team, the stars didn't really know much about news and ratings. They only knew about Fandom's recent acquisition of, Metacritic, GameSpot, all of these different brands that came to Fandom with TV Guide, GameFAQs, all of them. But they didn't understand how it fit into their wiki experience. And I asked Anna to meet with Fandom Stars to see if we could really build that relationship. And in that one on one, Anna expressed her concerns with me of, well, I haven't done this before. We haven't been on Discord with the users. I'm not really sure what this could look like with the Discord channel. Could you walk me through it? How do we get everything? How do we piece it together? And we were able to piece it together by streamlining and getting all of our internal stakeholders together in one room. And my job was to facilitate this conversation to make sure that she and her team had all of the proper details, so that way they understood when the announcement was going out, they could check it off. They could understand what questions all of our fandom stars were going to ask beforehand, well in advance, so that way they could prepare for it and they could share that with their team members. So if they felt, maybe this person could answer a little bit better than I could, they had time to prepare for that. And what's exciting is that a lot of our fandom stars who were really interested in sharing even more ideas after meeting with the news and ratings brand, they continue to share designs with the news and ratings team. They continue to share feedback with them even when they're not asked to, just because they're passionate about that specific cross-functional team. They're passionate about the experiments that they're focusing on. They're passionate about the people that are part of that team. Just because we built that bridge together, we just opened up 1 hour of their time so that way they can tell more about their experience at fandom and what they want to do and the opportunity they want to create for the entire community. And that was such a game changer for everyone involved. And it was really the blueprint for each cross functional team that I'm working with today, because I showed them that, hey, this is exactly what you can expect working with me. And this is exactly what you can expect when you are connecting with the community. And really, it's just about anticipating that need and creating that shared vision. So, if anyone has any questions, I wanted to make sure that I wasn't blabbing too long. Um, does anybody have any questions for me?
Yes. Thanks, Jennifer. There are a few questions, and we have a couple of minutes, so I figure we could just dive right in and see how many we get to. Um, I'm gonna start. We have a way to people can upvote questions, so I'm just gonna go in the most voted order, which is mine first. So, someone once told me, someone once told me that you can't take every single idea from your community because that's how you end up with a remote control, which is like too many buttons that the majority of folks don't use or even understand the purpose of. So, with this in mind, how do you not take every single product idea while still encouraging members to continue sharing their ideas?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's awesome because I have one of my product partners on the call now. Shout out to Jenny. This is really, really exciting. So for us, the idea is to make sure that we are creating a space where everyone can share their ideas, but we also focus on sharing what the plan will be. We also focus on letting our power users know what we are capable of, what's feasible and what is not feasible. And they are very, very well versed in the editing process. They have been editing on the platform for nearly 20 years, a lot of them. So they understand what our teams are capable of and, the incremental changes that we can make and the major changes that we, can and cannot make. So with these feedback loops, the idea is to gather up all the feedback that we can. And from that, I always tell them, you know, if you want to see great change, that is through numbers. Like that is through numbers. But if you have, 3 to 5 people who are sharing like these suggestions and these things, it's likely, well, yes, this is something that we'll consider. Maybe this is something that we can have later on down the pipeline, but it might not necessarily happen. We try to make sure that we're sharing that with them immediately, letting them know, like, hey, we heard you. We heard you loud and clear. Thanks so much. But that might not be something that we can do. And that comes directly from the teams. That comes directly from, our engineers. That comes directly from our engineering and product teams. That's why we like to have them in the rooms during these conversations, these transparent conversations, so that way they can learn exactly from the teams what can and cannot be done, and what's in place. Um, so that's kind of how we mitigate that situation. But from the community side, we are the liaison, of course. So we try to gather up as much feedback as we can. And then from there, here's the plan. From everything that you shared, thank you. But here's a plan that we can move forward with in a timely manner.
Cool. And then you hope that people are just like reasonable. They're like, okay, thank you. Maybe you'll do my idea next time.
Yes, yes. Fingers crossed.
Okay, next question from Robin Jordan. Do you only gather feedback in an event or a call type format, or do you have a channel for ongoing feedback? And how do you share that internally?
Absolutely. So all of our communication is text-based through our community, because they are definitely very private people, and we respect that. We absolutely respect the privacy of our community. So our ongoing channels that we have, of course, we have a massive Discord server with channels specifically for specific experiments. Um, Through Fandom Stars, specifically for me, I have a product feedback forum as well as a product feedback channel. So the feedback channel, that is continuously filled with feedback updates. So you will see links to blogs with, the latest experiment, bless you, as well as any type of event that we may have, upcoming event that we may want our users to attend, as well as just sharing any type of mock-up that we might want to get some type of feedback on, like in the moment. And then it's awesome because, if there's something that's happening on platform that we may want them to test, we are finding new ways for our users to be able to test in real time. So we're opening up opportunities for our Fandom Stars to be able to do that. So we haven't necessarily told them that yet. This will be very, very new to them and very exciting for them. But they have always asked, like, is there a way that we could be able to do that? And we're always tuning in, we're always scouring and listening to the channels to figure out how can we make the experience even better for them. So yes, to answer that question, there is ongoing feedback channels, multiple of them happening at a time, and we have many community managers who are overseeing this to make sure that they are gathering that feedback.
Nice. We are out of time, but there is one extra question. So what I'm going to do this, I'm going to share your question with Jennifer out of this event, and perhaps Jennifer, you want to like post it on LinkedIn or something,
Yeah.
or however you feel comfortable doing that. Thank you again so much for joining us. Wow, it was such a pleasure to have you. And I'm so glad that we were able to do this redo.
Thank you so much for having me. I really, really appreciate it. This was wonderful, and I appreciate all of you for coming back and joining me. Y'all are awesome. So I will make sure that I answer that final question ASAP. And shout out to all of you. Y'all were great energy. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us. I hope you all had an incredible time. And thank you again, Jennifer, for joining us and sharing your insights. Thank you for your questions and your chat and your participation. Of course, you can continue the conversation in the CMX community. I'm going to share the link again there for you all to join. If you're enjoying your experience on our beautiful virtual platform, you're welcome. No, you're enjoying Bevy. I'm a proud user of this platform as a community manager overseeing as many events as I do. I couldn't imagine my life without this tool. Of course, I'm a little biased, but you can head to bevy.com to learn more. Or you can find me in the CMX Slack community because I'm really open to having conversations about Bevy and my experience, like community pro to community pro. And then the last thing I'll mention, just as a special gift, we're extending our CMX Global offer from last week to just today. So CMX Summit 2025 is our annual in-person conference in California. This year it's on May 1st and 2nd. As an attendee today, you get an extra special surprise, $50 off the already discounted early bird ticket price. So I've shared that in the chat. Make sure you click it so that you can get your $50 off your ticket. And I hope to see you all in May. Last but not least, thank you again. Thanks for joining, and we'll see you in the community.